Oh, hello everyone. It's a pleasure to be talking with you. I've been asked to talk with you about a career in local government. My name's Roberta Ryan and I'm an Associate Professor at the University of Technology, Sydney. We've recently done some work on looking at the profile of the local government workforce, and we thought it would be useful and interesting for you to share that with you. So you'll have a copy of my presentation. But I thought generally I'd just chat with you and try and pull out some of those sort of key issues that might be interesting. So what I thought I'd start with is a bit of an introduction to myself, to the centres here, and then we've recently done a national workforce strategy, which gives us a lot of information about the local government workforce as well as a survey, and I'll draw out some of the key points of that. So I'll take about 10-15 minutes to have that chat with you. I wish you all the best in your interrogations of the local government workforce, and I'm hoping that if you haven't got a career in local government, you certainly think about having one. About me, I joined we have two centres here. We have the UTS Centre for Local Government. That centre's been around for about 20 years, and we also have the Australian Centre of Excellence for Local Government, which was funded by the Commonwealth Government about 4 years ago to have a national focus on local government. I joined these centres about a year ago, and one of the things that's interesting for me about working in local government was that my own background was in the area of community, place. I've always been interested in people and place and communities, and so working in local government for me was the opportunity to bring together that very unique positioning that local government has, which is kind of generalist organisation that is able to take up any of the kinds of issues or interests or local priorities of a place and to address those issues. So it's a level of government for me that's often we talk about local government as being closest to the people, but what's exciting about it, I think, is that it has both that democratic dimension where you can be very close to the kind of politics and local aspirations, as well as that spatial characteristic, because local government, of course, is defined by a particular geographic area. So for me, there's an exciting and intoxicating mixture of what local government offers us as a place to work in and a place to work with. So I started out life as a social worker, and I did a lot of work with local government around place and community renewal and building identity and all of those sorts of things. So since that was 30 years ago, that was a long time ago. But local government offers that opportunity to work across a whole range of kinds of professional areas, but it does have that specific focus on place, and it also has that direct connection to the democratic dimension, which I think is incredibly exciting. The UTS Centre for Local Government is very well known to many people. We commenced operation in 1991, and we have about 30 staff here at the centre, and we predominantly do our strategic objective is to work with local government to build its capacity. So we have a PhD program, a master's program, offer a variety of short courses. We do consultancy work with local government, and we, of course, do research around local government. So we work in and with local government, and we identify the issues of priority, and we try and find strategic ways to assist with those. We also have a graduate diploma in local government management. We have a graduate diploma in local government leadership and a graduate diploma in development assessment. So we're very interested, and we offer about 30 also short courses. So we've recently just launched the Executive Certificate for Elected Members, which is a very exciting initiative that we've just done the first part of, where we're working closely over 5 days with councillors to work with them in the areas they've identified to build their capacity for strong leadership. The Australian Centre of Excellence for Local Government commenced operation in 2009. Federal government funded. We're a consortium of which ACELG is one of the partners. We're in partnership with University of Canberra with ANZOG, and Local Government Managers National, which is the peak organisation for local government, senior local government employees, and the Institute of Public Works Engineers. And of course, engineers are significant players in local government. We do research and capacity building across the 6 program areas where we're particularly interested in strengthening local government governance and leadership. We work with building the organisational capacities, organisational development, and we've got a program focused on rural, remote and Indigenous. And we've also got a specific program on workforce, understanding and analysing the workforce and workforce development, which is what I'm talking with you about today. So the Australian Centre of Excellence for Local Government, which we call ACELG, it's an awkward acronym, isn't it? With Local Government Managers National, LGMA, launched just at the end of last year the National Workforce Strategy for Local Government called Future Proofing Local Government, the National Workforce Strategy from 2013 to 2020. And what was a ton of work involved in developing that strategy, and there are links available if you want to read the strategy available on our website. And really the importance of the strategy was all about governance at all levels, recognising the increasing importance of the local government workforce. Now, the importance of the local government workforce by both the recognition of that by both the Commonwealth and the state governments was really about 2 things. It was one, it was the recognition of the size and significance of the local government workforce and how local government can have a really significant impact on what happens in a particular place. So the idea has slowly, perhaps it's taken too long, filtered through to the Commonwealth that a place-based employer like local government can have really a significant impact on what happens in a particular locality, whether that's a metropolitan locality or a city government like City of Sydney or City of Melbourne or City of Perth, or whether that's rural or regional local government. And you'll find when I talk a little bit about the characteristics of the local government workforce, it's particularly important in regional and rural areas because of the significance, just the sheer size of the employment opportunities in local government in those areas. So there's really, as I said, a couple of key reasons why the workforce strategy is really important. One, because the state and federal governments recognised the importance of local government to delivering outcomes for particular places in Australia. And secondly is really because of the opportunity for great employment opportunities nationally. So as part of developing the workforce strategy, what we did was we undertook a first time it's ever been done, so at the moment we're able to talk about the characteristics of the national local government workforce in a way we've never been able to before. So we did a survey, details of the survey on the PowerPoint, I'll leave you to read that, but we did a survey that we spoke with, we collected data from about a third of the local governments in Australia, and we supplemented this data with ABS data and some other data, important data sources. So in terms of our data, the only thing to note about it is that we didn't get particularly good representation from Queensland or Tasmania, so we don't know as much about those jurisdictions. Overall, the Australian local government workforce employs about 192,000 people, and that workforce is characterised by a vast range of occupational types, and those occupational types, and I can't list them all here, but there are hundreds of them, from greenskeepers, garbos, technical workers, plumbers, carpenters, managers, local town planners, a huge diversity of occupational types, and that is unique in both in terms of public sector workforce, but of course in terms of any workforce in Australia, because there's no workforce in Australia that has such a diversity of occupational types. So local government provides an opportunity for career opportunity for people from a vast range of backgrounds. So let me tell you a little bit more about the workforce, the local government workforce. The first thing that we became aware of when we did this data collection about the local government workforce is the incredible the physical distribution of the local government workforce. So people will know there's about 560 local governments across Australia. Depends how you define local governments. There's always a bit of contestation about the number of local governments. But across that array of local governments in Australia, they're broadly categorised in terms of urban, regional and rural local governments. And one of the really striking things about the local government workforce is that it is compared to state and federal public sector workforces. Of course, local government represents a significant employer in rural and regional Australia. It employs by a factor of 10 many more people than the mining industry and any other of the agricultural industries. So particularly in the rural and regional areas in Australia, the local government workforce is very significant. And in particular local governments, it can be as much as 20% of the workforce. Now that's very important. We've got a current Federal Minister for Local Government in Warren Truss, who is also Minister for the Regions. And one of the things we often say here is that if you want to strengthen the regions, strengthen local government, because they're such significant employers in regional and rural Australia, and much more so than either state or federal government. So the distribution of local government. So you can get a job in local government anywhere in the country. So the skills that local government offers are and the opportunities and experience you can gain in local government, you can take those anywhere in Australia. So local government, in more than 60 regional and rural local governments, the local government workforce represents more than 10% of that total workforce. And in about 32 regional and rural local governments, it's made up as it's either somewhere between 20 or 40% of that workforce. So it's a very significant employer in regional, just in terms of sheer numbers. Other interesting characteristics about the local government workforce, and perhaps some of this is good, perhaps some of it's not so good, but it's certainly the case that the local government workforce, like the rest of Australia, but the local government workforce perhaps a bit more quickly, is disproportionately ageing. So as a workforce, there is a significant proportion of the local government workforce that's in the 50 to 69 age cohort. Now, we always see that as a positive because as that group of people in local government move through the system, of course, that opens up a whole lot of opportunities for people coming into local government. That ageing profile in the workforce is particularly noticeable in some of the unskilled areas. It's particularly noticeable in some rural communities, in some rural local governments and some regional local governments, and it's also noticeable for some of the senior management group in local government. And of course, as those people move through, there'll be opportunities for other people coming through. But what we've been doing and what part of the local government workforce strategy seeks to address is making sure we can transfer those skills that many years of practice in local government offers to the next generation of workers coming through. In terms of the gender breakdown of local government, it's about 50-50, although it is still, overall, nationally, it's 53% male and 46% female. However, that varies from state to state. In Victoria, for example, there are more female workers in local government because they've got very significant community services provision in Victoria, and so you've got more childcare workers, for example, who are predominantly female. In other jurisdictions where you've got lots of building surveyors and engineers, they're still, I'm afraid to say, some of those professions are still predominantly male. So whilst it varies, so for example, this workforce in Victorian local government is 60% female and 40% male, it's roughly half and half across the country. As you know, what local government does in different states and territories varies, and so that's reflected in that gender breakdown. There's a huge range of educational expertise in local government. We've got, about 5% of the local government workforce has post-degree qualifications, and about 30% of local government has high school only qualifications. So there's a range of opportunities for employment with a range of educational levels, and of course that diversity of occupational and job opportunities is so diverse. About 70% of the local government workforce works full-time, about 24% of the local government workforce works part-time, and then there's a whole category of other. So one of the things that's very noticeable about local government, which is different from public sector workforce at both the state and territory level, state and Commonwealth level, and also the private sector, is there's quite a large proportion of part-time workers, and that gives that kind of flexibility is one of the things that people find very attractive about the local government workforce. It's also the case that that varies across the states and territories. Let's talk a little bit more about those occupational streams. We categorise them into corporate services, the areas covered off by infrastructure, the human and community services areas. So there's a whole bunch of core occupational streams in local government, and they are as diverse as you can imagine. There's about 100 occupational streams. The characteristics of that workforce means that there's a bunch of up-and-coming opportunities for local government and for careers in local government. The flexibility provided by local government as an employer means that it's often attractive to people who have other interests, whether they be creative interests or whether they other demands, such as people who have families. So that we have, of that group of people who are working part-time, many of those are women. And what that's meant is that local government's been able to hold on to senior women who are coming through the system because they've been provided with some of that flexibility in their families. So that's a very attractive option for people in terms of finding government employer choice. And what that's meant is that there's a cohort of women who are at that senior management level, just the one step back from the most senior levels of local government, who are ready to address that gender balance that's happening. The most senior people in local government are men, the next level down are dominated by women, and they're well and truly able to step into that role now. So we've got a real opportunity to shift that gender balance in local government. The ageing population of the workforce, there's a lot of work being done to provide strategies to retain some of that well-earned skill and opportunity in local government. So there's a very important mature age worker strategy in local government. So if you're thinking about working in local government, don't let age be a barrier. There's all sorts of ways in which that mature age worker strategy is encouraging mature age workers both to stay, whether that's retire slowly or to work part-time, but also to join local government. Always local government, like other public sector employers, face competition for skills. Now, we had a real issue, as many employers did during the mining boom. That's coming off a bit at the moment, but it was pretty difficult to employ some occupational groups during that period, or at least to retain them, because there was some pretty big money being offered by some of those mining sectors. But that's changing at the moment, and as you know, that the mining sector's coming off that boom at the moment. So, but there are some key areas in which there's been sort of ongoing shortages, which of course means that there's opportunities for people to work in local government. They vary from state to state and from place to place, but there are shortages. Kind of, if I needed to generalise, there are shortages in the areas of town planning, engineering, library, pool attendance. Look, there's shortages across a whole array of some of the occupational levels, but local government is really working hard to try and attract, support and retain some of that staff. And there's been a whole lot of work done over recent years to ensure that local government keeps up with technological changes and making sure that we're able to really offer exciting and cutting edge opportunities. So there's nothing like being able to work for particular communities, get a sense of understanding and really knowing the characteristics of that community, being able to respond to the aspirations of that community through the elected level. And those opportunities exist, whether it's through vocational education and training. There's a whole lot of opportunities for streamlined pathways in that area and ongoing support and training. So there's a whole lot of information we've got. If you go to the Australian Centre of Excellence website, we've got some summary information about the characteristics of the workforce, some of those opportunities. Please have a look at that. The other thing that's important is that there's a lot of work looking at workforce planning in local government, and there's the HR professions in local government, the management people, the leadership people are really working very hard at building the capacity of the local government workforce. It's a very exciting place to work, and I'm hoping that you seize those opportunities. So thanks for the opportunity to talk with you.